Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first session of our webinar series, Introduction to AWS DevOps. I am Pratishna Vikneswaran, Associate Technical Lead at 99X. I will be moderating the session. Please post your question during the session in the chat, and I will take it up during the Q&A. First, let me brief a little bit about our speaker today. She has been involved in all aspects of software product co-development, architecture, management, and delivery with over 10 years of experience in the industry. She is also certified AWS Solution Architect Associate. I would like to invite the speaker for today's session, Buddhika Vijayasinghe, Associate Technical Architect of 99X. Hi, Buddhika, over to you.
Thank you, Pratishna. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. This is our first session on the AWS DevOps webinar series. Today's session will be on Introduction to AWS DevOps. So without further ado, let's start with our agenda for today's session. First, we will be discussing on DevOps basics, and then as our second section, we will be discussing on the role of architecture in DevOps adoption. Third section will be on Introduction to AWS DevOps. And last, we will discuss about the benefits, challenges, and mistakes to avoid. Anyway, I will not take this fourth section as a separate section today, but I'm trying to do is discuss about the benefits, challenges, and mistakes in DevOps adoption, mistakes to avoid when we are doing the DevOps adoption throughout the first three sections. And at the end, as Pratishna said, we will have a Q&A session as well. Okay, let's start with our first section of the today's session. Introduction to DevOps basics. Over the last decade, DevOps has become an important part of software engineering culture. This has become kind of next key game changer after Agile. So what DevOps mean to you? So let's start our discussion recalling the evolution of software product engineering to understand why DevOps has become an important aspect in software engineering. What is the problem that DevOps is going to solve, and DevOps is keep solving in the most of the organizations. Yeah. So starting off with software development evolution. We had this waterfall method some time back. Waterfall is kind of the popular process that we had, the development process we had some time back. So the waterfall method, we had a sequential way of development. We did the requirement analysis first, and then we moved to the development design, and then we moved to the development testing and operations, etc. So waterfall method was not sustainable, or like could not sustain in the industry because it could not handle frequent requirement changes that was demanding in the industry after some time. So then Agile came into the scene, and Agile was very successful game changer to handle these requirement changes. So Agile, the problem that Agile could not solve is the Agile was designed only for the software development phase. So after that, the operations phase, the monitoring, the deployments, and then monitoring, getting the user feedback, these aspects are not handled in the Agile method. So DevOps came to handle that limitation in Agile. So this the problem that DevOps wanted to solve is that the barrier that we had among the development phases and operation phases. Okay, so what is DevOps? Let's start off with the definition. There are like several definitions on DevOps, and there are like different ways that you can interpret DevOps. So I selected this definition. DevOps is the combination of cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increases an organization's ability to deliver applications and services at high velocity and high quality. So this looks like a textbook definition, but just focus on these highlighted words: cultural philosophies, practices, tools, and high velocity and high quality. So these are the key terms in DevOps adoption. So basically, DevOps is a culture that we are going to adapt in our organizations, where we are trying to do some cultural changes, some practices, some changes to our software development practices, and also where we are going to adapt some tools with the target to increase the collaboration between development, quality assurance, and IT operations. And at the end, the result we are expecting is improvement in time to market and quality to market. So it is not only a practice, it is not only a process, it's not only a tool or technology, nothing like that. It's a complete process. It includes some cultural changes, it includes some practices, some process changes, and it needs some tool adoption. And this will eventually increase the collaboration between development, quality assurance, and IT operation without going like a sequential manner. It is kind of like centrally managed with the DevOps life cycle. So I was telling that DevOps life cycle is the infinite process or infinite cycle of planning, coding. Let me share my screen. Yeah, DevOps life cycle is about having this cycle of all the stages in development and operations: planning, coding, building, testing, and then releasing, deploy, operate, and monitoring. And with the feedback that we get with monitoring our production environments and all, then we'll get that input to our next iteration, next cycle, planning the next. So that is how the DevOps life cycle happens. So in order to achieve these goals of DevOps and achieve this DevOps culture in our organizations, what are the DevOps practices that we have to adopt? So these are the popular DevOps practices. This list can be varied, definitely depending on the problems that we are going to solve. So these are the popular DevOps practices that all the organizations needs to adopt if you are moving into the DevOps culture. First one is continuous integration. That is, like, we all know what is continuous integration is. It is like when we work as a team, the code that we build, the multiple developers build, needs to be integrated into one central repository, so that where we can run the test there, we can build together, and we can ensure that quality is assured at early stage of the development. So that is the continuous integration. We need to have that practice. And then we have continuous delivery, the process of sending our development work to production continuously. So where you will be able to do more deployments more frequently. And then we'll have automation. Automation is the key, one of the very important facts when it comes to DevOps. When we say automation, we need to do the test automation, infrastructure as code, all the possible automation to the workflow, the development workflow. So that is important. So then we have continuous monitoring and logging. The monitoring and logging is very important in DevOps adoption. We need to get the feedback from our end users continuously. We have to monitor our infrastructure continuously. We have to monitor whether it's it is performing as the expectations that we have, the customers have. So that is for that we have to do the continuous monitoring and do the necessary improvements as we get the results. So then communication and collaboration is one of the key cultural aspects that we have to adapt. By having a proper communication and collaboration between these three teams, the development, QA, and operations, we will be able to share the information properly, will be improve the reliability of your work, definitely. So then continuous change management. DevOps, saying the fact that DevOps is a culture, it is not a goal, it is not a thing that we can say, okay, we are done. It is not something like that. So because of that, continuous change management or continuous improvements is really important. So we set our goals when we are adapting DevOps, and when we achieve that, we will look for the next improvement that we can do. So that is the evolving process. So continuous change management is another main DevOps practice. So through all of these things, what are the benefits that we are going to achieve? One of the main benefit is reduced lead time. Lead time means the time that it takes to send an idea to production. So with these practices, we will be able to reduce the lead time of our business deliveries. And then a lower change failure rate. So when we have the automation set up and all these, the test automation is there and the deployment frequency is high, when this setup is there, we can reduce the change failure rate. When some change happened, what is the rate of potential failure? So we can reduce that. And then we can have improved the deployment frequency where from having like one release per month to a level where we can have multiple releases per day or hour. Like it depends on the working environment or the behavior nature of your product. So then we can achieve faster recovery from failures. We have all the monitoring setup. We will be able to proactively take actions for the stats or the alerts that we get. So we will be able to achieve faster recovery from failures. And DevOps enables fast experimentation and innovation because we always can experiment our ideas on production with our users and do the necessary innovations on top of the results we get. And one of the very important things is avoiding waste. So with the previous processes that we had, the waste was one of the big concerns, because like when we have already developed a code and if it is not sent into production and if it is in the development state for months, then it is a waste, because we are wasting that effort that we have put to send that idea to end user. So we can avoid waste when we adapt DevOps properly in our engineering process. Yeah, so we can get a lot of other benefits as well. So these are the main benefits that we can achieve through a proper DevOps adoption in our organization. So to summarize, it is all about people, process, and technology. DevOps is not about only technology or process, nothing like that, but it is a culture. As I told earlier, it's a culture. We need to focus on people aspect of it, process aspect of it, and technology aspect of it. So yeah, that is basically what DevOps is. Okay, so moving on to our second section, where we are going to discuss on role of architecture in DevOps adoption. The enterprise architecture or a product architecture is the foundation or the core of the software product. So having a proper architecture setup which respond positively to change is very important for the growth of an organization. So without having that proper architecture or without having a proper core, just by changing the tools or processes or the technology upgrades, we will not be able to achieve maximum outcome of the changes that we do. There's always a limit when you do not have the proper architecture in setup. So it is really important to have a DevOps friendly architecture. So if you are to adapt DevOps in our organization, it is very important to take that decision to adopt a DevOps friendly architecture in our systems so that we will not have any blocking points in the middle of our journey. Okay, so discussing about the architectural decisions. There are like several factors that are contributing to architectural decisions. Like we have design. I mean, the business domain, it can be the product design is definitely provide input to the architecture. And then we have quality attributes. Depending on the non-functional requirements, we have to define the quality attribute that our product architecture has. Then we have to think of the IT infrastructure when we are defining the architecture. And human dynamics, the strength or the human factors that we have, like how whether like it really the organization structure linked to architecture. So those facts need to be considered. And then business strategy, like how come the organization is going to evolve in future, like what is the strategy. All those things needs to be considered when we are defining the architecture. So given the fact that goal of DevOps is to deliver value frequently, fast, and high quality. So in order to achieve that, there are some quality attributes that the product architecture should have. So moving on, these attributes, these quality attributes are necessary for DevOps adoption. So in our architecture, product architecture, it is essential to consider these quality attributes when we are defining the architecture. If we are looking for a scalable company, or if you are looking for a scalable company or scalable product, then it is essential to look for these quality attributes. If I go through the each one of the quality attributes, the first one is modifiability. Definitely, like how software can deal with changes. So we have to reduce the cost of change should be minimal. Your architecture should support that aspect. And testability. How easy to create a test criteria for the system and its component, and how easy to execute these tests and assess if something is wrong. That means testability. Then we have scalability. Scalability is the ability to system to handle the increased load without impacting to performance. So that is also needs to be considered. And then we have performance. That link to the quality of product, the how well our system is performing, what is the response time requirements and all. So then availability. So when we are going to, like with DevOps adoption, when we are going to support more production deployments and continuous delivery and all, having less planned downtime, those facts needs to be considered. So availability facts, like how well our architecture adapt those kind of availability requirements, these things needs to be considered when taking decisions on availability architecture. And then security, definitely, it's a very important quality attribute that needs to be considered. Then deployability, how easy to send changes from development to production. So your architecture needs to be support this. So let me compare two popular architecture patterns to explain or this clear out this further. Yeah, let's discuss of the monolithic architecture. This monolithic architecture is a model that we have all the modules in one setup, interconnected in single self-contained unit. And it is simple to, like at the start phase, it is simple to implement or simple to develop, simple to deploy or test when we have this as a one unit. Even though it has its own benefits like simplicity, but when it comes to DevOps, monolithic architecture is not a very good match. Because continuous deployment, like continuous deployment is one of the DevOps practices. Continuous deployment is difficult when you have a large monolithic application, because when we are looking for small chunks of developments to be sent to production continuously. So when you have to release your complete product to production, even due to some small code change, then it is not that CD friendly. So that is a problem. And when we have the monolithic architecture, cost of change is high, and it is not that scalable. It is scalable only in one dimension. We can have multiple units scale, but the cost is high when we are going to scale in one dimension only. And at certain time, when we have to scale up the development, like if we are to divide this application to like several teams, then when we have the monolithic architecture, it is difficult because there are like lot of team dependencies. Moving on, the microservices architecture is kind of like considered as one of the trends in DevOps adoption. Microservice architecture is about like having small and independent deployment, small and independent services for independent functionalities, features that we are having in our systems. So this is a DevOps friendly architecture pattern, because you have the small and independent deployment unit. It is more releasable, it is more deployable, and it is scalable, and it has the testability, like the testability or the possibility to set up a testing criteria is easy when you have an independent component. And this architecture support frequent and incremental changes, and we can easily adapt team autonomy. So that is how the architecture choice is impacting the DevOps adoption in our organizations. So it is important to take the relevant decision, the necessary decisions for architecture if you want to adapt DevOps in an effective manner. So summarizing, architecture choice is important for DevOps adoption, definitely. It is like with the researchers and all, with the DevOps adapted companies, it is the known fact that highly coupled monolithic architecture and team dependencies makes DevOps adoption challenging. The architecture choice should support frequent and incremental changes, and operational concerns like infrastructure architecture, test architecture, and automation needs to be considered at the initial phases. So modular architectures definitely works better for DevOps. And containerization using Docker containers and these cloud services and all will be helpful to maintain the consistency across environment, which is a good thing for DevOps. So it is not that even if we have the monolithic architecture or some different other architecture pattern, we can try out the DevOps adoption, but it can be costly. So that is why it is important to have a proper architecture choice your products if for a better DevOps transformation. Okay, let's move on to our next section. That is about introduction to AWS DevOps. So now we discussed about the DevOps basics and the importance of architecture for DevOps adoption. Now we are going to talk about the AWS DevOps, how AWS or the cloud computing and DevOps can work together. So both cloud computing and DevOps helps in accelerating software delivery. Like both is reducing the operation complexity. Of course, like using either cloud or DevOps alone will be beneficial for organization, but when they are used together, you can achieve more efficiency and more agility, and you can do more innovations in software delivery when you are using these two together. Cloud definitely helps to reduce traditional complexity of operations, and we can get cloud services at very reasonable cost, and it is helpful in reducing the complexity in operations is helpful in accelerating DevOps adoption. At the same time, some of the practices that we use in DevOps, like automation and all, is help to reduce the complexity in cloud infrastructure. Like managing distributed cloud infrastructure is also like maintaining distributed cloud infrastructure is quite not easy as maintaining some the simple systems. But if you adapt the practices like automation that is given in DevOps, concepts, then it will be beneficial for cloud computing as well. So these two have mutual benefits, and together they definitely deliver more value to your business. So because of that, this adoption of DevOps demands more a new way of innovation in cloud computing as well. So AWS, being a leading cloud provider, has introduced a set of DevOps tools to support new DevOps transformation. And also, like other than this direct tools, there are like several other ways that we can use AWS services in order to improve our time to market and quality to market, the achievement, the things that goals of DevOps, we can do that. Okay, so how let's see how DevOps and AWS, the cloud computing can be better together. Definitely using DevOps tools given by or provided by AWS and other cloud providers will be accelerate your cloud transformation. And then we can use other existing the familiar cloud solutions to accelerate DevOps. As an example, using load balancers to adapt a better deployment strategy will be beneficial for DevOps. And you can use containerization service, serverless frameworks, etc. And then definitely, as I told, those practices can reduce cloud complexity. So if we integrate or if we merge this together, and if we implement both in our applications or in our systems, it will be adding more value. It will accelerate software delivery rate much more than using one either DevOps or cloud alone. Okay, let's start with DevOps tools. I'll just introduce the tools that is like DevOps tools that is provided by AWS that can be used to implement DevOps lifecycle. So when it comes to code stages, we have this toolkits or the development toolkits provided by AWS. This will these toolkits will make it easier for developers to develop and even debug and deploy the code that you develop. It can be .NET application, it can be Java. The toolkits will make it easier to deploy it in using Amazon Web Services. So with that, it will be more productive when building AWS applications. When you're using toolkit, it will be more productive. And then we have this code commit. This is a fully managed source control service where you can use to host your Git repositories. The one of the advantage of this service is it is actually support the standard functionality of Git. So it will work seamlessly with your usual existing Git based tools. And you will be able to, like when you use code commit, you don't have to worry about this scaling and all the managing factors. It's fully managed service. And then we have code commit. Code commit is a fully managed continuous integration service, which can be used to build your source code, run test, and produce the packages, artifacts that you want to deploy. So same as code commit, it reduces the complexity or the burden of scaling your build server. So it is auto scaling and everything is fully managed by AWS. And then we have code pipeline, which can be used to automate your continuous delivery, fully managed continuous delivery. And you can automate your release pipeline using code pipeline. You can define your own release process, and the delivery pipeline can be handled through AWS code pipeline. And also it can be integrated with other services as well, such as GitHub and your own the third-party other applications or other familiar applications that you use. And when it comes to test stages, also there are several third-party testing frameworks can be used to facilitate continuous testing easily. Can be integrated with AWS services, AWS code pipeline, and code commit and everything. And then we have deploy AWS code deploy. This is again another fully managed service that will facilitate the deployments in your code. Like you can configure it to deploy your code to manage AWS servers and even the on-premises servers and all. So that is another tool that we can use in adapting DevOps. And then moving to monitoring, we have the familiar CloudWatch and CloudTrail services, and also the recently introduced EventBridge, which can be used to manage all these events and all. Using CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and EventBridge and the similar services, you will be able to facilitate continuous monitoring in your DevOps lifecycle. So these tools can be used to implement DevOps lifecycle or the DevOps pipelines. So other than that, it's about the tools that is provided by AWS. And other than that, as I told, there are several other ways that we can get the advantages of cloud services to accelerate DevOps. One thing is one thing is deployment strategies. As I told, releasing to production frequently is one of the main goal in DevOps model. So when your development frequency is high, then it is really important to have a right deployment strategy. So that when you have the right deployment strategy, you will not get any unnecessary downtimes, and you will be able to improve the system availability and all. So AWS offers several deployment strategies that you can use with its services, and you will be able to select one that is well matches with your requirements, and so that you can accelerate DevOps. So the deployment strategies like blue green and canary deployment and all can be easily implemented when you have used these AWS managed services like ECS, load balancers, and etc. So that way you will be able to get an advantage to improve your delivery process. And then automation part of it, like infrastructure as code and the workflow automation is one of the very key improvements or key practices that we have to have in our systems in order to get the maximum advantage of DevOps. So from AWS, we can use CloudFormation and Cloud Development Kit CDK in order to set up infrastructure as code. And for the workflow automation, also we have Elastic Beanstalk and Observe. These sources can be used. So with the AWS will be like as usual, like reinventing all these setup, like even the CDK, like have made it like more developer friendly than CloudFormation compared to it, because using CDK you will be able to code your infrastructure same as you usually code your application. So like there are like those kind of improvements as well. So you will be able to use these services in order to achieve the necessary amount of automation, workflow automation for your applications. And the other factor is about using serverless or the going serverless. This serverless or this function as service products or services, and also the containerization services like ECS can be used to have more agility in your applications. Like, it will be like definitely like when you go serverless, it will eliminate the overhead of setting up the infrastructure at all. Like it is just like you build your code in cloud and deploy, and it will be easier to run the code without provisioning or managing servers. And you will have the you will have these list of advantages when you use serverless approach in your products. You will be able to like have a better control over production deployment, and you can have you can easily enable DevOps automation, and you can easily patch updates. You can do the updates easily, and definitely productivity is high. So we can use that as well to enhance DevOps practices. Yes, DevOps and like we started the discussion like how like to see like why to discuss about how DevOps and cloud can be better together. Yes, as I explained, like when you use these technologies together, you will be able to achieve more benefits. Like your cycle time can be further reduced, and you can do easy automation. Your cost of infrastructure will be less. Scalability will be high. It will be automated, and you can facilitate high availability and high security, and definitely the cloud complexity that you used to have in your cloud infrastructures can be reduced when you use it together with DevOps practices. Okay, so that is about the brief introduction to AWS DevOps and how we can use AWS DevOps practices to AWS services and tools to enhance DevOps. And like we even have the kind of like opportunity to master these things. The certifications are available. That is also possible. Like if you are to master in that DevOps stream, you can do that necessary certifications and all as well. So moving to, I want to like at the end, I want to discuss about these mistakes that we need to avoid when adapting DevOps in our organizations as well, because I discussed about the benefits throughout the sections. So I want to discuss about the mistakes that we have to avoid when we are adapting DevOps. First mistake is we have to understand that DevOps is not CI/CD. So it is a culture. So just implementing the CI/CD is not will not give the expected results to you. So you have to start with the team collaboration. You have to discuss with the team. You have to identify your problems and all. So the second one of the very common mistake is like not identify your problem statements. it is true that DevOps is meant to have this conflict, meant to fix these conflicts between development and operations teams. But in your case, that might not be your problem. Like in your case, what you want to solve through DevOps practices can be something different. As an example, it can be your lead time, it can be your deployment frequency, it can be this dependability issues. So identify your problem and customize DevOps practices in order to fix your problem, your customized problem. And as we discussed, incorrect architecture evaluation, like you have to have a proper architecture setup, proper core to get the maximum advantages of it. Otherwise, no matter how much you invest, you will not be able to see the expected results. And lack of automation, like just by let's say we just implement the CI/CD pipeline, we can improve the deployment frequency. That is true. But when we have when we lack when the automation is not done to the expected level, probably ultimately the value we deliver at the end to the business can be same as earlier, because we have to put some manual effort throughout the cycle. So even though it is frequently released to production or frequently sent to the customers, but at the end, the amount of work or the value that we deliver can be similar or less. So having that, the business might interpret it as a failure of DevOps. So having the automation set correctly will be helpful to remove those kind of misunderstandings. And then the next possible mistake is setting incorrect metrics to measure success. So if I give you an example, you might set the lead time as your metrics to measure success. Okay, if you reduce your lead time from 20 days to 5 days or 6 days, you may think that DevOps adoption is successful. And but at the same time, you have to consider the related facts as well. Sometimes in order to do that reduction in DevOps, you have to make sure that you are taking the correct practices. It is not reduced by sacrificing quality. So those things needs to be considered. So the next mistake is not having a long-term plan. So it is important to have a long-term plan. So in DevOps, you have to think big. It is true that you have to start small, but have some long-term plan. Then you know where you are moving ahead. So you can do the small incremental improvements. And then lack of team and stakeholder collaboration and communication. This will also result in the differences or the gaps between the expectations and the real results that we will deliver. So it is important to have a proper collaboration and communication between the team and also between the all other relevant stakeholders. And then the last one I want to discuss is focusing only technical value, forgetting the business value. So it is very important one. When we are measuring the success of DevOps, we might think that having 10 deployments done in a day is a success factor. But that is just a technical measurement. Always consider the business measurements as well, having technical deployments in a day, what it has given to your business, what it has given to your end users. So that is important. So you have to balance that out. You have to always think what's the business value of the improvements that you do. Okay, so these are the set of mistakes that we have to avoid. It is good to avoid when adapting DevOps. Okay. In order to end my presentation, I would like to share this. We have to always keep this in mind. DevOps is not a goal, but a never-ending process of continual improvement. So it is about continuously improving ourselves, continuously improving our product deliveries, continuously improving as an organization. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. So we can move on to the Q&A session now.
Yeah, I would like to thank Buddhika for all the insights on AWS and the DevOps practices. And it was really nice of you to touch on the basic rookie mistakes we can make when we start with AWS or DevOps per se. So that's great. And we have so Q&A, please post your questions on the chat. And meanwhile, we have one question from Indika Ratnasekara. Can you briefly mention how you can handle blue-green deployments in the same setup? Like is asking like with the same setup, how we can handle blue-green deployments in AWS.
Yeah. Okay, so I will explain it using like some services. Like there are like it depends on your architecture, it depends on the services that you in AWS. But if I just explain it using some services in AWS, I will start with the ECS setup. Okay, like as you all know, the blue-green deployments is about is all about like having identical production environments where you can one environment, let's say blue environment is in live state, and the when you need to do a deployment, you can do the deployment on the next environment and eventually move the load or eventually migrate the load to the new environment setup. So it is having the same infrastructure in two environment setup. So risk is low and the reliability is high in your development deployment. So if something fails, you can easily move to the next one. So implementing in AWS, like let's say that if you have your services in ECS, you can use application load balancers to load balancing rules. You can implement load balancing rules when you are doing the deployment to migrate that load eventually when the deployment is done. So using application load balancers together with your service, two instances of your production setup, you will be able to achieve that. I hope I answered the question.
Yes. And also we have another question. This is not a technical one, probably with in touch with the process. The question is from Janak Dasanayaka. What is the role of business analyst in DevOps? How does BA come into play in DevOps process?
Yeah. It's a good question. Actually, how the BA comes to the picture in DevOps adoption. If I just share my experience on these aspects, actually, what in my opinion, DevOps is always about collaborating. Like BA, like we have this role called BA, developer, and QA. And we are used to like how these traditional processes where BA communicates with customers and then get all the requirements and transfer to the development team, and then we do the development and then we transfer to the QA team, so on. So this sequential process was the problem. So what we are trying to do with DevOps is improve the collaboration and reduce the cycle time of development so that we can get the more feedback frequently. So I think BA is also fit in the same manner where we can like same as the development and QA teams work, we have to like improve the collaboration between BA, development, and QA teams. When we get the requirement, when you have the continuous delivery and all these development, the DevOps practices in place, you will be able to verify these requirements, these business requirements quickly. I mean, like more frequently. So that way, like having that more collaboration will be helpful, will be important in dealing with this role as well, the BA. And also, it is not about like replacing a role or something, but having all these roles, but in a collaborative manner. It's not that BA role is going to be like invalidated with the observer. Not like that. But you have to be collaborator. QA will be there. Operations will be like, we are not going to like remove operations, nothing like that. But it's about collaboration, shorter cycles to verify the requirements and all.
Yeah, that thank you so much. That was insightful. And also like there is one more question. This is about DevOps adoption from Saranga Abekon. If a company with traditional setup trying to adopt DevOps, where should they start? if they
Okay.
are like in traditional setup, how they what should they do to migrate
Yeah.
to?
Yeah. Then again, this is again my personal opinion, I would say, because like there can be like depending on the company's behavior and the company's operations, there can be several correct answers for this question. But in my opinion, I believe that if it is a traditional processors or traditional architecture and all, in my opinion, I think we should start off with the with fixing the core stuff, like if your architecture can be a barrier at after some time, I believe that you should evaluate that, and you should get these cultural practices. You should identify your problems that you need to achieve, like why you need to achieve DevOps adapt, like, or you if you are like, what are the problems that you are having with your current process. Probably you might want to improve your deployment frequency, and if you want to improve your deployment frequency, if you just want to like without worrying about the amount of work that you send to production, if your target is to like send it more frequently so that your customers get something more frequently so that they can test and they can time so the time to market will be better. In that case, what you have to fix is your CI/CD pipeline so that you can send. And at the same time, like if your customer is focused on the value delivery and all, then you have to focus on your architecture, like what are the limitations in your architecture, and then have a plan and do the other setup in the eventually. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, it definitely depends on your problem and the problem or the problem you want to fix and expectations of your customers.
All right. Okay, that's more like it. And yes, and we have another query. I think that can be answered by me. They are requesting to share the slides, but actually, what we are going to do is like, please stay tuned. This session will be available in our social, so you all can rewatch this the whole series. So please stay tuned through our 99x socials. We will. I think that's from Sujani Jayakumar. Yeah, please stay tuned, and we will definitely share those information with you in our socials. Yes, I think that will be our last question, and we can actually wind up. That's the time, all the time we have. And I would like to thank again Buddhika for taking your precious time and coming and educating us on DevOps and on AWS. And also, meanwhile, I would like to remind the streamers right now that this series will go on for 3 more weeks, and we will be covering more aspects of DevOps in CI/CD monitoring and other aspects of DevOps in AWS. And stay tuned. Again, don't forget to subscribe our channel, and stay tuned in our socials to get more updated information about the upcoming sessions. And thank you all for joining and being a great audience today. Have a nice day. Thank you, and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.